And good morning. Hello, everybody. My name is Nick Whitaker. I'm the Training and Development Manager on the News Lab at Google, and we're here for July's Data Journalism Roundup with Alberto Cairo and special guests Nadieh Bremer and Shirley Wu. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just a minute, but I wanted to give you guys a quick heads up where you could find more information about the News Lab, our training materials, our office hours, and other information that might be useful to you. If you go to g.co/newslab, you'll find all the details about this and other opportunities to learn about what we're doing and what other journalists and newsrooms are doing with our tools and with other tools, as we'll be talking about today. So I'm going to hand it over to Alberto Cairo. He's going to give a quick introduction about himself and set us up for the rest of the afternoon. And then I will be here to field questions. If you have questions, please add them onto the live chat on the YouTube account. youtube.com/Google News Lab. You'll see us right there live, or you should be actually watching this already. And otherwise, Alberto, what's next?
Thank you, Nick. Good to see you again. It has been a while since the last one that we did. Yeah. So I'm going to introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. I am Alberto Cairo. I'm a professor of infographics and data visualization and data journalism at the University of Miami. And I come from a long career in journalism as an infographics and visualization designer in media companies in Spain and Brazil and the United States. And besides teaching, I also collaborate with organizations and companies like Google in projects like the ones that we are going to talk about today with our guests. So perhaps we should go ahead. But by the way, before we proceed and introduce and ask our guests to introduce themselves, for those of you listening to this hangout, be aware that on the same YouTube page, if you scroll down, you will see several links that will take you to the projects that we will be discussing, a couple of articles talking about them, an article describing these series of experimental and creative data visualizations that we are creating based on Google data, and so on and so forth. So without further introduction, I'm going to ask Nadieh and Shirley to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about where they come from, what it is that they do, where they live, etc., and so on and so forth. So Nadieh?
Yeah, so yes, my name is Nadieh. I live in Amsterdam, right below Amsterdam, actually, a teeny tiny town. And I am a freelancing data visualization designer. But my background is not there because everybody comes to data viz from a different way. And mine is from astronomy. I graduated as an astronomer. Didn't know what I wanted to do. It ended up as a data scientist in the analytics department of Deloitte, where as external people, we often had to sort of present our findings of data analysis and algorithms to the clients. And that often contained some sort of visualization. And then along the course of 4 years, I discovered my passion was more on the visualization side than on the analysis side. I like both, but visualization I love. And that's how I sort of went towards data visualization designer, working for another company then as a full-time data viz designer for the last year. And since this week, I'm now just started as a full-time freelancing data viz designer to expand my boundaries and work with whoever I want to work with and do cool projects like the one I did.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So yeah, people should be aware of that and contact you to hire you.
Yes.
All right, that's great. So Shirley?
Yeah, hi, my name is Shirley, and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, a little bit south of SF, just like Nadieh is south of Amsterdam. So like Nadieh, I came to stay in data viz in a different way, in that I actually studied business in undergrad, thought I was going to be an investment banker, realized what a life mistake that would be, and went into computer science my last year, somehow got a full-time job doing software engineering, and then just happened to be like given data viz projects, like D3 projects, right out of college. And then so I've been doing kind of like data visualization and product kind of projects since graduation. And in the last year, I quit my full-time job like just cold turkey and decided to freelance, and it's been really amazing. And I've been able to do more kind of storytelling projects, and I'm really starting to enjoy this area of, you know, digging into a specific data set, finding insights, and then kind of putting them together into a story, and then like an exploratory tool for the user to discover, which has been really, really fun, and I'm really enjoying it. And I'm hoping to keep freelancing for as long as I don't go broke.
All right, so connecting to that, I was going to actually make a joke. So if I got it right, you mentioned that you were going to be an investor, working in investing as an investment banker,
yeah.
and then you moved on and became a designer. So you basically gave up money in exchange for freedom and creativity.
Yeah, basically.
It's more fun this way. It's similar, yeah. I guess that it is similar to pursuing a career in journalism, right? I usually, you know, tell this story that when I began my career, when I was a rookie infographics designer like 20 years ago in a newspaper, I got a job offer from an agency that produced advertisement, design, marketing, products, PR, etc. And I was making very, very little money. So they offered me double the salary, which was not a lot, but because I was making very little money, but it was double the salary. And I didn't accept it just because I knew that it was not going to be as fun as being a journalist. So, you know, sometimes in life you need, I believe, to basically think about what is better for you, what suits you better, whether you prefer to either make more money or you prefer to have more freedom in your schedule or more creativity, freedom, etc. So that's great. Well, it's great. It's great that you're joining the community rather than, you know, making money for fat cats. Well, anyway.
I could have been super like rich now, you guys. I'm just kidding.
Let's not get overly political. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, definitely a great life choice in that I'm so much happier now than I was when I was doing that. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, so I am going to share my screen over here. I'm going to take over for like 5 minutes to talk a little bit about what it is that we are doing with Google. So I'm going to share a screen here, so you're going to start seeing them again. So again, if you go to the YouTube page where you are right now, and you scroll down, you will get an introduction to what it is that we are doing. And down here, I'm actually seeing myself over here, which is kind of weird. Down here, you will see links that will take you to several projects. So the first one that I would like to open is the one that says the page containing all our projects so far. So I'm going to launch that one over here. And then this other one down here, which is an article by a Fast company. So what we are doing in this collaboration between myself and Google and Simon Rogers from Google and other people from Google is to take Google Trends data and other sources of data like YouTube data, etc. And we are asking top designers from all over the world to go creative with those data. I'm actually navigating to the Google Trends page. So if you go to trends.google.com, this is the Google Trends page where you can search for any term and see how interest for that term has increased or decreased in time. This link over here, Explore a Story, all right, the one on top, will take you to the series of experimental visualizations that we have done for the past year or so. So, and also you will be able to see a previous Google Hangouts. I see that my beard is longer on this YouTube video over here than it is right now. Anyway, so you will be able to see all the projects that we have produced so far. So what we are trying to do here is to give top designers from all over the world, people like Moritz Stefaner or Jan-Willem Tulp or Martin Lambrecht or Nadieh and Shirley today, the opportunity to play with Google data, particularly Google search data, but not only, and design visualizations that are both informative, compelling, interesting, obviously, and readable and understandable, but also visualizations that push the boundaries of the field a little bit in terms of creativity. That's the reason why some of these visualizations go beyond the traditional means of representing data through bar graphs or line charts or data maps, and try to come up with new ways of showing those data. So you can see them all again under Google Trends, and then if you go to the Google Trends page, you click on Explore a Story, and all our projects are here. And if you want to get more detail about the series themselves, you can go to this Fast Company article, which is linked also from the YouTube page. This is a very good description of the goals that I have been outlining so far. For some reason, the images are not loading over here, but you can read it all over here. And basically what I'm doing, my responsibility in this series is to be the art director, which is kind of a funny title because I don't really art direct. I just talk to designers every week and see how they are doing and just give a little bit of feedback. But I don't really provide directions of where to go, because the goal of these projects is that designers create graphics that they feel comfortable with, visualizations that may feel them proud in the future. We want the voice and the style of each one of our designers to basically be seen in each one of these projects. So this leads me to data sketches, which is another link that you have over here. So data sketches is a project that Nadieh and Shirley put together, and I'm going to ask them to describe it in just 1 minute. So I'm not going to explain it myself, but simply put, what happened was that I saw the data sketches project one day. I thought that it was wonderful, and I sent an email to Simon Rogers saying maybe we should do a project with these two people, because these are amazing visualizations that they are doing. Perhaps they can do something with us. And fortunately, they accepted. And the result was two different projects, two different visualization projects. One of them titled Beautiful in English, and the other one titled Explore Adventure. So Nadieh and Shirley, the first question that I have for you is, before we get into Explore Adventure and Beautiful in English, that perhaps you can explain the data sketches project itself. What do you think about that? Can you explain what this project is about?
Yeah, Nadieh, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, yes. So the project's a year-long project, although it's been 6 days over a year now. We still have a few things to go, but the thing is that our main goal is to have fun, so we're not that bound by deadlines. But it's a project in which each month we pick a topic that we're both really excited about. We've had things from nostalgia to community to the Olympics and movies and books for each of the months. And during that time, we both create a data visualization about that topic. But we can go in whatever direction we want, as long as we have some sort of connection to that topic. And we really like this idea of sort of working together, because even though each of us creates a visualization on our own, but during the creation process, we give each other a lot of feedback on ideas, on data, on sketches that we send each other, and halfway works in progress. So it's a very collaborative thing as well. I really like that. And well, besides sharing this end result, one of the things we also thought would be interesting to do is to write about the process of how we created it. So, and we split that up into 3 fundamental steps. We find that it's data, sketching, and coding. And so within that sort of, in these 3 steps, we explain how we started it from having just a topic to eventually getting to the end point. So other people can also see that we make lots of mistakes. We don't always know where we want to go from the start. And that the end result is definitely an iterative process, so that other people can sort of see that the final visualizations you often see online, it's not like they were created like that, like poof. It takes effort, and maybe give them some ideas of how they can go about and create visualizations as well.
Shirley, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think Nadieh pretty much covered everything. I guess the only thing I want to add is what Nadieh was saying about the collaborative process. So it's really fun kind of reading each other's, well, reading Nadieh's write-ups, because oftentimes like we'll reference each other being like, oh, you know, Nadieh gave me this feedback, so I did it this way, or Nadieh would be like, oh, Shirley told me this, so I tried to do this. So you can kind of really like see our collaboration through the write-ups. And then I think the other thing that I absolutely love about having done this project and being like so close to the finish is like just being able to be inspired from everything that Nadieh has done and all of the different approaches she's taken, and like because Nadieh is so strong in the places that I'm lacking, and then so being able to see like how she approaches her like data process, and that's been really awesome, and the amazing support that the community has given us in terms of giving us feedback, and whenever we're like stuck on something, they'll, like if we ask a question, so many people will answer and try and help us, and it's been an amazing year.
Yeah,
almost year.
I can imagine. I mean, that speaks about one of the features of the visualization community, in my opinion, which is similar to the behavior in the traditional news or journalistic infographics community. They have much in common, and they actually meet each other in several conferences. Mm-hmm. But one of the features of these communities is that they are very open, and they are very welcoming to new people, new ideas. It's very critical, so there is an ongoing culture of criticism, but I believe that that criticism is constructive and should be kept being constructive. And, and I believe that that's the reason why you're getting so much feedback about these projects, because what you're trying to do is to create something that, do something that is creative and push the boundaries and tries to come up with new ways of representing data. I believe that there is value in that. Many of these new ideas will not will be discarded at some point, yes, because they will be proven ineffective, or perhaps they could be improved upon or something like that. But at least you put them out, so you try them out, see if they work, whether they work or not, and then so it's like an experimental process, right? It's like a trial and error process. And as I said before in my introduction, I think that if something can be said about this project is that most of these visualizations are simply beautiful. I mean, they're amazing to look at. All right. So anyway, so let's focus on the March data sketches, which is the one sponsored by Google. We decided to focus on culture. So if we click on read more over here, we will see the write-ups of both projects, Beautiful in English, Nadieh's project, and Explore Adventure, Shirley's project. So I have them both open over here. They're still loading for some reason. Oh. And yeah, I can just click again here. My Google Chrome is misbehaving, so I may need to open this in Safari or something like that. But anyway, so all right, so shall we begin with, for example, Beautiful in English? Nadieh, can you describe what this project is about?
Yes, sure. So this project is about Google Translate. Well, being a non-native English speaker, I have Google Translate on my bookmarks bar, because I go to it like at least once a day to figure out one word that I've forgotten. And I was suddenly intrigued to know, like, what are other cultures actually translating into English via Google Translate. So I wanted to dive into that, and well, it's a humongous data set, of course, so I had to narrow that down a bit. So I requested from the Google Translate team a data set that contained the top X number of single word translations. So when people just type in one word, and then they gave me that top list, and I investigated that to figure out, so how is Spanish different from Portuguese, is different from Russian. And so we chose about 10 very popular languages, and in trying to figure out, so going from the top to the bottom, from very general, like what is the most common word across all languages, and diving deeper and deeper into each language and their similarities and differences, and seeing if that sort of is related to what you might expect for the typical culture in that country.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to scroll down to see the actual visualization. What it is that you found when you were exploring the data? We found very interesting facts here. Can you talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, sure. So on the one hand, I decided to focus only on nouns. So that's things like house, dog, chair, and adjectives, which say something about a noun, like a beautiful house or an intelligent dog, because these seemed, otherwise it was just hello and thank you everywhere. But it was very interesting to see the differences there. And in general, I was surprised that many of the top words had a very positive vibe going about them, because the most common word, if you combine all languages, was beautiful, which I was really happy with. But good is also in there, and other kinds of variations on that. I also really liked seeing the teeny tiny differences that French, for example, has a translation in there for a gentleman, which I thought was very fitting. And I think Turkish has a bit of an odd one. It has in its top 10 something, it has idiot.
That's kind of funny. Let's talk about first the first piece of visual information that we have in here, which is this kind of moving snake of words, and the most often translated words into English from the different languages. Can you talk a little bit about it?
So this one is just sort of getting into the data. So it shows the most common or the most often translated word from these 10 languages, the original word, and then what the English translation is about. And then connecting them is sort of a moving snake, 100 most often translated words across all of these languages. And if you hover over them, I look at the Google Trends data that belongs to the English translation of this word, and try and figure out if there are peaks, like what might have caused these peaks, or what other words are often translated together with the word. The fact that mama in Russia is very often searched for mama jokes and yo mama and these kinds of things that you sort of expect. But it's quite funny to see these things from the Google Trends data.
And then we have here beautiful.
Yes.
And in Turkish, and then we have bem in Portuguese. Yeah, and we have work.
Yes, work. They are very to the point, the Japanese, it seems.
Yeah, I really like how in both projects, this is true of both projects, but I really like how the information is layered. So you first have the summary of the data. It's like, the headline, right? These are the most translated words. But then if you want details, you can hover over or click on that, and you will get this very rich time series, line chart, and the word cloud below, etc. So I really love the design of this piece. It's very elegant, and at the same time, it's also quite informative. And then we have this part over here, diving into the top 10 per language. So let's talk a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so this one is sort of like a tree ring visualization, where for each of the languages you can see, instead of the top 10, we dive deeper now and go into the, instead of the top 1, now we see the top 10. So now you see the top 10 overall, but if you click on like Japanese, for example.
Let's do that. I'm going to go down here, click on Japanese. Oh, I see that Mr. Simon Rogers himself has joined us. Hi, Simon.
Hi, guys. Hello from sticky London. It's so warm here.
Simon, I live in Miami. You don't know what sticky means.
It's 100 degrees here.
It's warm and sticky in a different way, I guess I'm saying.
Welcome. Good to see you.
Well, I've joined at the interesting bit. This is such beautiful work. I'm so pleased that we were able to work together on it.
Yeah, we were discussing the first project. We will move on to the second one later and talk a little bit about the process and the challenges. All right, so we were talking about this part, Nadieh. So sorry that I interrupted you.
No, no problem.
So this is Japanese.
Yes, so this is Japanese. So we have the English translation in the middle, and then the original word that was translated on the side. And you can see here a little bit how in some languages there are multiple synonyms. So it seems, for example, I think that Japanese or a work itself has multiple forms in Japanese that both get translated to work or to Japanese. But this is one of the things I try to do with all of these visualizations, is make them a little bit different than you might normally see, and also try and build them up from words completely as much as possible.
Should I select any other language? Any funny story that we can find on the other languages?
Well, I already sort of gave away the French and the Turkish one.
Let's get the Turkish one, because so people can see it. So now the Turkish is unfolding. All right, here it is. Beautiful, darling Turkey, good, dear, peace. Turkey is fantastic. Idiot and moon, for some reason. That's hilarious. All right, very, very nice. And then we have the part about similarities between languages.
Yes.
You want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so for the final thing, I looked at all of these top 10. So I had 100 words, well, 110 because we also have all languages combined. And I put a line between two languages if they share a word. So for example, if you hover over, Portuguese, it has, or Polish, it has 4 words in common with Russia, 1 with Japanese, and 3 with Italian. But now you can only see sort of the words, the center one you can see the words for, but if you click on one of the languages, it moves towards the center so you can see it in more detail. I had to do that because otherwise there were too many words in there, so there had to be sort of a focus. But in that sense, what I enjoy is that Spanish has a lot of overlap with Italian and Portuguese, whereas Russia, yeah, it makes sense. And Russia and Poland are quite similar in terms of that there are 4 connections. And then Japanese is pretty dissimilar to everybody else.
What is Japanese here? Oh, Japanese is here. Okay,
yeah.
Very dissimilar.
I love the fact that that Japanese is only similar to 2 languages, one of which being German, and the word is decision. It's like the 2 countries that I associate with work and productivity.
Yes, and the other word is also somehow related to request. So decision and request.
Yeah.
I do love how we kept the boring words in there. I know there was a bit of discussion, wasn't there, about maybe we should lose words like that are just everyday standard words and focus on the ones that are unusual. But there's something about the mundane data can be really fascinating, right? It can tell us something about our lives, and I really feel in this case it does that in a really fascinating way.
Yeah,
for me as well.
Yeah. All right, so this is the first project. I'm not going to ask questions about the process right now because I would like to first show Explore Adventure. And unfortunately, for some reason, there is something with my Google Chrome here that blocks code sometimes. I will need to switch to Safari and see whether the project looks correctly over here. If it doesn't, perhaps Shirley, there you go. It loaded correctly. Perfect. So, all right. So let's talk about Explore Adventures, Shirley.
Yes. Hi. Well, first of all, I wanted to say when Alberto and Simon asked us to collaborate, we were super excited. I think I jumped up and down and it was really embarrassing for 5 minutes. So
I didn't see that.
But you did get to see me eating every single meeting.
That's right. That's one of the funniest stories of our weekly conversations.
I'm just an embarrassing individual in general. Because Nadieh and I always choose one topic and then we figure out our own angles off of that, when we decided on culture, I was like, the #1 thing I think of when I think about other countries is what do people visit in that other country? So then I know if I ever go to that country, what I should be visiting. This was all self-motivated. But this project basically, I got basically all of the search data regarding travel around the world since 2004, and then basically tried to see if there was any trends that were interesting, with the end goal being an exploratory tool where the user can select a country and see what other countries have searched about that country, and then being able to kind of dig into all of the different places and kind of the search interest for those places around or across the years. And so after I got that exploratory tool done, I kind of did the analysis and figured out an interesting set of stories, and used those stories to kind of introduce all of the graphical elements. So the first story was kind of, this was, I guess in retrospect, kind of obvious, but that that the United States searches the most for cities around the world when it thinks of travel. Like it will, I think cities in Italy was the most searched for, or
so cities in Italy. I'm in the exploratory tool right now because before we get to the exploratory tool, there's a whole section explaining how to read the visualization, which I really like, this portion over here. And then if we scroll down, we get to the exploratory tool, which is what you're describing here. So we are in the United States now, and certainly it's Italy, cities in Italy. Yeah, here it is.
Yeah. And then, so then there's this section is about something really interesting that I learned while exploring and building my tool, which is that there's a really interesting seasonal trend to how we search in the United States, which is that we search a lot in the spring. And so like maybe it's for spring break travel, or maybe it's for summer break travel, but either way, we search a lot. And then, but when we toggle to fall, like there's almost no search going on whatsoever. And my guess about that, like for some reason though, like Egypt, like
Egypt stands out. Yeah.
I couldn't figure out why, but I'm guessing for fall it's because everybody's gone back to work, or gone back to like after summer vacation, or gone back to school, and everybody's like in the work mindset, and nobody's thinking about vacation, and it kind of is a little bit of a depressing time for me in this data set.
And then you can basically, one of the things that I like the most about this project is that it doesn't just show you the data, it lets you filter the data in and out, or by selecting the different categories of searches, so attraction, nature, people, history, art, and then compare the spring and the fall. Again, these are topic search in the US for places, people, etc., in other countries all over the world, and then comparing the spring with the fall semester over here.
I think this project is so interesting, and I know I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the process you went through to design it, because I know there was a lot of kind of, I felt like where we got to this amazing place.
Yeah, I was going to get there after we described both projects.
Okay.
Both projects require, long hours of thinking and tweaking, and it was a lot of fun. We all learned a lot in the process.
Yeah.
So let's finish
this is also data that nobody else has really done anything with. Nobody's similar to the translation thing where nobody's ever done anything to translate data.
Yeah, which was great.
Stuff. Nobody's done that before either.
Yeah. All right, Shirley, what else should we talk about? So we have the China, the terracotta section also.
Yes. Okay, so I actually was really excited about this discovery. I think a lot of when people quote this project, a lot of people quote the fact that like the differences in how we search for travel in seasons, but this one was the really interesting one for me. So it's kind of like the seasonality of the search interest. And then what I found was if you kind of look at the line charts of across the years when the search interest peaked for certain places or certain keywords, there's a lot of them are kind of based around disasters, which is really unfortunate, like the Paris attack or the Arab Spring, although some of them are also really interesting, like Beijing spiked for the Olympics, but this one I thought was a super fascinating trend, which is, so Qin Shi Huang is the first emperor of China. And then when I was looking through this, I realized that there was a seasonal spike in, I think, the like spring and fall. And then, so I think that's the second line chart. And then there's a dip in the summertime. And I was completely confused because why should there be seasonality for a person? So yeah, so this one shows like the dips in the summer, and then the peaks in the spring and the winter and the fall. And this is just the US searches, has that kind of like very obvious seasonality. And that was really weird because like, why would a person have seasonality? And then when I looked at the terracotta soldiers, that's when I realized that like the terracotta soldiers has a very similar pattern where it dips in the summer when it comes to US searches. So I still haven't kind of figured out why, but apparently the US searches for Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor, when they want to find terracotta soldiers, which I wrote like makes no sense to me because that just seems like a harder word to search for than just terracotta soldiers. But
search data is a mysterious and amazing thing.
Yeah.
And there are sometimes you can think of things, oh, that's because of that event or this happened then or whatever it is. And sometimes things like this, I think.
Yeah, I wonder whether Chinese American searches, Chinese American people searches affect these variations somehow, but it's certainly intriguing to think about. Yeah. And then we have the exploration part down here, right?
Yes. So this part is, it's basically a culmination of everything I kind of explained. And it also has like a few hidden features. Like I think I never explained what vice versa is. And that's, so the default view is we can select a country and see what that country searches for around the world. But if we do vice versa, we can actually see what other countries search about the United States or United Kingdom. And that's kind of like a little bit of a hidden feature. And that one, I actually use that hidden feature to kind of plan out my vacations now.
Oh, that's funny.
At least to see like where I should go.
Who knows? People may be using these. It may be useful for people to do the same thing, right? What to see. Yeah, what to see in these countries.
And you can also do what to see in that country in that season.
Yeah, exactly. You can see it season by season. Let me do vice versa here. I'm from Spain, so I'm super interested in regions, attractions, other, very interesting, right? And then we have Andalusia, Empuria Brava, Canary Islands, obviously, it's a very popular destination. Very, very intriguing. Yeah. People.
Is it, would these?
Oh, Gaudí. There you go. Yeah.
Oh,
the famous architect. And then
would
cities.
Oh, sorry. Would these be places that you would search for?
I mean, I'm from Spain, so I don't search for places in Spain. But yeah, I guess so, because Valencia, Barcelona, obviously it is. You know, Palma de Mallorca. These are very touristy places. Marbella, Malaga, very touristy places. Barcelona, Benalmádena, just. Yeah, that's interesting. Benalmádena in the United Kingdom, people search for Benalmádena. It's probably there's a lot of British people retiring over there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this looks like after Brexit, but yes.
Yeah. Oh, let's not get very political. I made these. I mean, we could. I don't mind getting political.
Yeah, we have things to talk about. So I love how these two projects complement each other in completely different ways. That is incredible to me, and you know, the transitions on these charts are beautiful.
They are, and as you can just stare at these transitions and just click on different links just to enjoy the flow, the flow of the objects. There's something pleasant and soothing about these transitions for some reason. It's like rain, you know, multicolored rain coming, falls down. It's so poetic. Yeah, it's like, I don't know what it means, but it looks beautiful. Yeah. Right. And then down here we have the details of the data, right? So we have like the searches year by year of Recife, for example, in Brazil, and you can expand that and get a detailed view. So both projects are very rich, but this one in particular lets you go really deeply into the data if you want to, again, by layering the information in a quite effective manner. All right, so Simon mentioned before, talking a little bit about process. For those who are listening to this conversation, on the data sketches page itself, if you click on the culture section, which is the one that we are talking about, these two projects, actually what you will find is both the projects themselves and also the write-ups that both Nadieh and Shirley put together to describe the process and also the challenges, etc. So perhaps we can talk a little bit about this. I mean, people can read this by themselves, but perhaps we can provide a summary. What do you think? Yeah. What were the main challenges that we faced, or the things that we changed down the road?
Well, I know mine, which is probably what Simon was alluding to.
Okay, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead with that one.
Which is, I think, because I wasn't quite 100% sure what I wanted to get out of the data when I first started. And because that data set is so vast, yeah, so this is kind of, I think, like my initial, oh, like this might be kind of interesting, but like I didn't have like a specific question other than, oh, what do countries search for? And because of that, I like kind of meandered a lot in terms of like figuring out a visual, like the visualization that would be able to best describe what I'm looking for. And then, so yeah, if you scroll down, there's, I don't think I even put all of my sketches on there, and like all of the different visualizations that I went through, and some of them were like more fanciful than others. I think some of them were like so fanciful that Alberto had to be like, hey, maybe like back up a little bit.
The point that I usually made in our conversations, just for you to know, is that is like I use myself as the test. I mean, having worked in data visualization and infographics for 20 years, if I cannot read a chart, my guess is that most people will not be able to either. So, yeah, but yeah, some sketches were really weird, but all of them were fantastic. They all look great.
They were kind of just me being like, oh, I want to see how this data will be, like, I want to dig into this part of the data. So what's like a visualization that could help me like see that? And then so it was just a lot of bouncing back and forth. And I actually have my sketchbook, and I don't know if you guys can see, but this is basically every single one of these Post-its is every time I sketched something for this project. And so like, I think I have like so many that I didn't even post on the write-ups.
Take a look at this one. I didn't even remember this one. I don't know what it means, but it looks so nice.
that was definitely, that was
collectively together. They look amazing.
Yeah, let's take a look at that sketch that you were showing. Yeah, Shirley.
I think so this one, I think this one is in the write-ups, but this was kind of the thought process behind that weird.
Yeah, this is here. Yeah, that one is here. Yes, I'm going to show it again.
So that one was, I don't know if this one was ever, I don't know if I ever put this one on there. But like I went through a lot of different, I don't know if this one is in there, but like just kind of like a lot of different thought processes of like, because the data, and the data, I actually subcontracted my friend to help me with the data, which was also really exciting. It's the first time I subcontracted someone, but he helped me get the data, but it was so multi-dimensional and so vast that I didn't know where I wanted, like which angle I wanted to come from. So basically all of the different sketches is like me trying to figure out like how can I visualize it so that, this is kind of just scribbles, so that I can kind of get the insights that would be interesting. Yeah, I don't even know if these are, some of these probably didn't make it onto the write-up because of how weird they are.
Something that I find fascinating about both articles, both Shirley's and Nadiehs, is that they reveal that both of you actually draw things. I mean, pencil, paper, pen, etc., to come up with your ideas. So this is a sketch by Nadieh also. There has been an ongoing discussion on Twitter and in social media, because I am an advocate for this kind of thought process, like getting a piece of paper, a pen, and just start scribbling things around to come up with concepts after you have analyzed the data and you know what you want to show. It usually helps a lot to forget about the computer for just a little bit, and then just let your imagination fly using pen and paper. This is an approach, a strategy that is favored by famous long-time infographics designers like Nigel Holmes or John Greenwaite. I remember attending some of their classes many years ago, and they were always hammering this idea. I mean, try to forget about the computer for just 1 second. After you have analyzed your information, etc., put the computer aside for just 1 minute and just sketch things out, and then go back to the computer. I mean, but other designers like Moritz, for example, Moritz Stefaner, who also produced a project for us and is working on another one right now, he prefers to sketch things out in the computer. So using code, he's able to sketch things out using code, which is a kind of an interesting process, I guess.
I found that a lot of people we work with don't use paper at all. And they code something and then iterate. It's constant kind of iterations, which seems like, for me, as somebody who grew up like writing stuff on pieces of paper, that seems super complicated.
Yeah, I guess that.
It's amazing how many people do that.
Yeah, I guess that it depends on how old-fashioned you are or not. But I mean, both of you, Nadieh, Shirley, you're quite young in comparison, for example, to me. So I find this really reassuring, actually, that both of you are doing this. So I would like to praise you for this. Take a look at these, so intricate and so. I don't know what these are. They look like astronomy diagrams. Obviously, they come from Nadieh, but perhaps you want to talk a little bit about these. I mean, how did you learn to sketch things out, or why did you decide to sketch things out by hand rather than with code, etc.? Or how does this help you thinking of the graphics?
On the one hand, I guess I sketch in the very beginning. So when I have my data and I have an idea of how I might visualize it, I always, so for this one, it's like the design itself. I sketch it out on paper because it's, for me, the fastest way to sketch out an idea if I don't yet have any data to work with. But in my mind, I can sort of hopefully figure out how it might look. Because I'm not constrained by anything. My hand can do whatever it wants. I mean, it's data visualization is circles and lines and rectangles. It doesn't have to be pretty, so that's more than fine. And it sort of helps me collect my thoughts. If I cannot draw my idea in a way that makes sense, then probably the idea is not quite right. So in that sense, it helps me. But it also helps me figure out thinking errors in a different way. That maybe I've forgotten something and I draw it out and suddenly I figure out, wait, this is not quite working yet. So that's why I love to sketch, to get a sense of the general design. And then I afterwards, once I have the data, I do go into a sort of a designing with a code phase. But here I had to return to my sketchbook quite often because my challenges for this one were not necessarily the designs, because thankfully the data was in such a way that my initial designs seemed to work with them. It was more the math. So how to make it actually function and how to actually build it up. So and then and with math, I have written, I don't know how many kilograms of paper of math equations during astronomy. It's just the only way I can do math these days with, or more in terms of formulas and such. Just writing it out, making small diagrams, your geometry things, the cosine, sine, and drawing things out and seeing if that works.
All right, so we have around 10 minutes until the end of the conversation. So do you know, is Nick around there? Yeah, I think that he is,
sure,
right?
Yeah, we actually have a couple questions came
All
in
right.
from
All right. Let's go
YouTube
ahead.
channel, but now would be a good time to stop and kind of cover some of those. We got one from Karoon. He was just actually following back up on the terracotta soldiers piece and was double checking to see if there was a relationship between the terracotta soldiers comment or the way people were searching for it in Qin Shin Huang, but I think we have covered that. Hobo Sheep says, can you ever create a data viz without pen and paper?
So actually, I only started sketching because Nadieh encouraged me to. Before Nadieh, I kind of just designed everything in my head. And I guess this is what Simon means when he says that people just code and then iterate. So I basically would like drive and think through my designs and then code it out and be like, oh, that didn't work out right. And then just like think again and then code it through. So it's possible, I think, but definitely I feel like my experiences are richer now that I dump everything in my brain onto paper and then see kind of like what Nadieh was saying about the thinking errors, and then iterating upon the sketching. Yeah.
That's great. And Risagi Sharma says that Nadieh mentioned that this was the first month that she used mood board or Pinterest. How else do you explore possible aesthetic inspiration for the form of your visualizations?
Yes, so that was the first month, and I've been doing it quite often these days. So I have all kinds of secret boards for each of my clients with inspiration that I have. I also have a lot of data visualization books behind me. Over there, there are quite a few in lower levels, and I take that one today. I picked out the visual complexity books. I needed it for something, so I look at what other. I often get inspired what other people have made, and like a small piece of it might inspire part of, and I sort of combine things together. But I think Pinterest is my favorite one right now, combining my data viz mood boards.
That's great. And Jessa Moore just chimed in. She says she can certainly create a data viz without pen and paper. She says it's easier to iterate and ideate on pen and paper, though, and easier to scribble than code. So it sounds like you're not alone there.
Yeah.
I guess that it depends on how knowledgeable you are, right? And how fast you are, or I don't know. I mean, or perhaps it's just something that, I don't know, you inherit from your family. Because I remember that I sketch things out just because my dad, like 30 years ago or something like that, he taught me how to sketch things out. And he taught me that whenever I wanted to represent an idea or a complex message to people, one of the best ways of doing that is to create some sort of connection diagram by hand, connecting the different concepts of the argument or something like that. And he taught me techniques to do that. So I think that my own experience doing these kinds of sketches grew up from that era. But I guess that every person is different, right? Shirley, you're nodding there.
There are a lot of people that do this, don't there? And I used to do it with Michael Robinson at The Guardian, and he was a great sketcher, and he would use the sketches to convince people. Like, he would show the news editor this amazing sketch, and oh god, that's going to be great. And because there's something about the power of it being a sketch rather than being actually, when it's done interactively, you can argue about the flaws or whatever, but actually seeing it on paper, that can be great.
Yeah.
There's definitely a growing body of work, too, of research that talks about sketching and just journaling in general, about helping to organize thoughts and how you can actually, I think as a visual creator, photographer, and videographer myself, I always did storyboards. I always sketched things out ahead of time, and I'm a horrible drawer, so it was usually stick figures and arrows. But I feel like having that framework to help tell a narrative, to help tell a story, is always a good place to start.
Well, great. All right, so it's almost 1 hour. Time flies by. So
I know we didn't even get into empathy and data viz, did we?
Yeah. Oh no.
I know.
we actually have two more questions too.
All right.
I think we should do the question.
Yeah, let's do the question.
Hobo Sheep jumped back in. I love that title. Hobo Sheep says, "How do you find energy?" He says, "How do you find energy to go through this tedious step to solve math? I'm often stuck when I feel I've solved the design part, with no energy to go further and really produce the final design." Follow through. Yes.
Well, I guess in terms of math, I can only say that I actually enjoy math, and I get a sort of satisfaction from solving mathematical problems. I guess that's also the reason why I chose to do astronomy. But so I can't speak for everybody, but it's in one sense, I have a goal in mind, and I want to reach that goal, and that really drives me. Just the fact, if I don't know where I want to go, it's difficult to get the drive. So getting started can be difficult, but once I know where I want to end up, it drives me to try every kind of route I can find or compromise to get there, and that includes solving math or learning new code or sitting on Stack Overflow for hours to figure something out.
And I think one of the really important things that Nadieh touched upon is the fact that we both either dream it up or sketch it before we start coding, because then we're not restricted by the shapes that we can make, the circles and the squares and the that we can make in the browser, and instead we're only limited by our own imagination. And from there, because of that motivation, then we can kind of figure out whatever we need to, whether it's math or whatever, to kind of get to our end result. And I have a cheeky answer to that question, a short cheeky answer, which is, so I used to love math, and now I'm a little bit scared of math, but there was one time when I was like really stuck on the math problem, and I was in a bar, and I actually asked the person across from me how they were with math, and it turns out he was also a web developer that does data visualization, and he helped me solve the math problem and sent it to me like overnight, and then like the next morning, and we had a great conversation, and that was for my December data sketches where I was trying to put equidistant points along a spiral. So San Francisco magic. Like,
such a coincidence. That's beautiful.
So when you can't do the math, ask someone else.
Got one more question from Jessamore. She says, going from data analytics, SAS, JMP, and even Excel to getting more into the design and Viz side, what are the best tools to learn? D3, .js? Is it, it seems that you frequently use that, but what other suggestions might you have?
Well, from data analysis, I was using R a lot already to do my data analysis, and it has a really great package called ggplot that I'm still using quite often to make very basic charts. So I would, if anything, I would learn a tool that helps you do data preparation, analysis, and visualization all in one, even if that visualization can be simple in terms you can make it quite advanced if you really want to. But after that, yeah, I D3 because it's quite low level, so the learning curve is quite steep, but once you scaled that, it gives you a lot of freedom to do whatever you want. But if you don't really want to do that, you can either go for wrappers around D3, such as Vega and Vega Lite by Jeffrey Heer's team, or high charts, or these kinds of libraries. They take away a little bit of the freedom because it has to fit into whatever they wrote around D3. But it's a good place to start, I'd say. But I would still recommend R above anything else.
Yay! All right, so Simon wanted to talk a little bit about empathy, because he wrote an article about empathy in visualization, and perhaps we can wrap it up with that. Simon?
Yeah, I just feel like there's a trend at the moment for trying to make visuals more human, and this comes on the heels of the trend of just throwing all the data out there. And both the way that you guys kind of guided people through it, and it wasn't necessarily, it doesn't have to be issues that are lighter. You look at the people, there are lots of people out there doing the same kind of thing, and you've done things around more serious kind of issues. I think it's more about thinking accessibly. And one thing, I guess, because we only have a couple of minutes, like literally, it might be interesting to talk about who you are trying to impress, because I feel like that often out there when I see visuals, I think, is this person trying to impress his peers, or his or her peers, or is he trying to impress the users and readers? Like, who are you thinking of when you're visualizing something?
I think it depends on the project, but for this one in particular, I just wanted anybody that stumbles across this visualization to feel the same giddiness and happiness, and finding a particular like little like tidbit of information as I did. So for this particular one, it was like general anybody. And for other projects, it might be like I'm trying to impress like my data viz peers, or but more often nowadays, I think I want to make things that can speak to a more general audience and bring them delight and happiness.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess, and for me, with data sketches in particular, I think I have a few very nerdy subjects, and in that sense, I want to impress the other geeky nerds that also are into the subject as much as I am. So it might not be that easy to understand if for somebody who's never heard of Dragon Ball Z, for example, but those that have seen every episode, I hope that they will enjoy it a lot.
I think that's a good place to end, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and thanks everybody
Thank you.
for joining. Shirley, Nadieh, Simon, Alberto, as always, it's a pleasure to have you guys. It sounds like we have some interesting topic ideas for the next session, which I would recommend everybody to keep their eye out for on our YouTube channel and our Twitter channel. We're going to continue doing these at least on a quarterly basis, if not on a monthly basis. Technology aside, hopefully everything else goes smoothly. But you can always find out more information about these office hours on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Google News Lab, our Twitter account, Google News Lab, the Google Trends Twitter account. Alberto and Shirley and everyone else will be adding in their information, obviously, in the description of the YouTube video as well, so you can find out more about the projects that they've been working on and how to reach them as well. And then last but not least, definitely check out our website, g.co/newslab, where you can find training material, lessons, and programs, and a whole lot of additional information that will help you on your journey for data journalism and exploring Google tools. Thanks very much, and have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Good to see you all. Bye-bye.